We are on the homework for lesson 10.9. We are solving systems of inequalities. So we're going to graph both inequalities, and then the shaded region is going to represent the shared solution for both of these inequalities. So both of them are going to have their own solution set, and we're looking for the overlap on the graph. So we start off right away with something that's a little bit different. So we have y less than -1. You can always write these as an equals to help you graph it if you need to, because we're already used to graphing those. So we know it's going to hit, and that's not a positive one, it's a -1. It's going to hit the y-axis at -1 and go across. Now this is not going to be a solid line because we don't have the equal sign. So this is going to be a dotted line, a y equals -1. And since it's less than, we're going to be shading everything underneath. Now I'm not going to go ahead and shade quite yet because I'm not just solving for this one linear inequality, I am solving for the system. So the shaded area needs to represent the answer for both of these simultaneously, not just one. So graphing this one real quick, intercept of 1, so starting at 1 on the y-axis and using my slope of 2, which is up 2 over 1, all the way across. This is also going to be a dotted line. Down 2 over 1 going this direction. And this one also says less than. So sometimes the ones on the tilt are a little tricky. This one, if you find the spot on the y-axis, this is, I think, the easiest way to remember how to do this. It says y has to be less than. So these are all my y values on the y-axis. Think about all the numbers less than this number. So less than 1, it's going to be down here. So we are shading everything underneath this one. And so our final answer, the shaded region that's representing both of these, has to be underneath this, but also underneath this. So while everything up here would be less than this line, it's not also less than this line. And over here, everything less than this works here, but that is not less than this one. So the answer to this one is everything down here because it is less than this line and less than this line. Sliding over, the numbers are a little off, so number 4 right here. -5 is my intercept, slope of -1, so down 1, over 1, down 1, over 1, all the way across. This one will be a solid line. And my other one, I'll worry about the shading in a second, starts at 7, has a slope of 3, which is up 3 over 1. Go in the other direction, down 3 over 1. There's my intersection. And this one doesn't have an equal sign, so this should be a dotted line. Okay, so just to show this another way, I'm going to shade it in 2 different colors and then shade my final answer. So first of all, it says it needs to be greater than 3x plus, well, let's start here. It needs to be less than the one that hits at 5. So less than would be everything underneath of it. So that would include this section. It would also include this section. So that's not my final answer. That is just this line. And when I look at the other one, it says greater than. So if I go to 7, the numbers greater than that are everything above it. So nothing below the line. So that would include this whole top section. But it would also include this. Everything up above that line. And so you can see the overlap here. We've got the darker pen color by itself with no red, and we've got the red by itself here. The overlap is in here. So this is my actual answer. It's where it's true for both of these inequalities. These can be ignored. They are only solutions to one of the 2 linear inequalities, not both. So when you solve a system, that means we're solving for both of them. So that's our shaded answer. Okay, number 5, starting at -4, up 1 over 2 with a dotted line. So go in the opposite direction, down 1, left 2. And my other one starting at 8, down 3 over 2. This is going to be a solid line. Okay, so starting with the first one, the one that hits at -4. This says y is less than. So that's going to be everything underneath this line. So my final answer, you're always going to have this kind of split into 4 pieces. It's going to be one of these two that's underneath. So it's either this one or this one. It can't be both because this line is either going to say greater than or it's going to say less than. So it's either this or this. And so when I come to the other one, it says less than, the one with the intercept of 8. So less than is going to be everything down here. And so my shared region that is less than this line and also less than this line is down here. I cannot include this because while it's less than this line, that would be greater than this line. It needs to fit both. Okay, number 6, starting at -3, going up 11 over 5. This is going to be a dotted line. And then starting at 6, solid line, going up 2 over 5. There's my intersection. Down to left 5 to go this direction. Solid line because of the equal sign. And going back to the first one, it says greater than. So when I find my y-axis, all the greater thans are going to be above it. So it could be this region or it could be this region. Both would be greater than the dotted line. So when I come to the other one, it says less than. So underneath the solid line would be here. So it needs to be on top of or above the dotted line and below the solid line. And so that is this whole region. So number 7, we're starting at -7. It's a slope of 1. Okay, going up 1 over 1, and it will be a dotted line. And this one we're starting at 5, going down 3 over 1. Also a dotted line. And so starting with the one that hits at -7, that says greater than, so everything's going to be up above it. So it's going to be one of these two regions depending on this line. This line says less than. Less than this line is going to be below it this way. So it's got to be in both. Can't be down here, okay, because it needs to be above this line. Can't be up here because it needs to be below this line. The shared region is everything out here. Okay, number 8, we're starting at -5. I'm going up 4 over 1. And that's a dotted line. This one is like y equals 3, so that's going to be diagonal, not diagonal, horizontal, all the way across. Now starting with that one, it says greater than 3, so it's going to be the region that's above this line, and it says less than 4x minus 5, so the one that hits at -5, it's got to be underneath, so it can't be here underneath because that's not above y equals 3, so it's got to be this region up here that is below this line, but it is above this line. Number 9, starting at -4, down 9 over 4. That would be out here somewhere. Okay, so working backwards, I got to go up 9 to the left 4. And that is the only other line I'm going to fit there. That is a dotted line. And this one is starting at 3. And it's going down 1 over 2. also going to be a dotted line. So up 1 to the right 2. Here's my intersection. So this says greater than the line that hits at -4. So greater than is up this direction. So we're either talking about this shared region or this shared region. Based on the other one hitting at 3, it says less than. So it needs to be under. And so the shared region is in here. Number 10, starting at 8. Up 7 over 3. It's going to be out here somewhere. So I got to go down 7, left 3. And again. This is a solid line because it has the equals sign. And this one starts at 2, goes up 1 over 3. Going the opposite way, down 1 over 3, there's my intersection. This one is a dotted line. Okay, it says less than the one that hits at 8, so less than is this direction. It's going to be one of these two regions. This one, the one that hits at 2, it says greater than, so that is up. Okay, so it can't be out here because that's above this, but it has to be below. It can't be over here, that's below this, but it has to be above this. Shared region is out here. It is important to remember that these dotted lines and solid lines do matter. Any point that's in this shaded region is going to be an ordered pair if you took the x and y that works for both of these inequalities. Now, what if it's on this solid line up here? That means it's in the solution because it's a solid line. Now down here, that doesn't fit the second one, right? That's down here. That's not above 1/3 x plus 2. So none of this part of the solid line will count. But everything up here on the solid line does count. Now, what we need to make sure we understand is that while this is all shaded, the actual dotted line is not part of the solution. So just like a point out here is not part of the solution, a point on the dotted line is also not part of the solution. All right, now we're going to be looking at ones where we got to do some rearranging. So if we're going to put these on the graph, we're going to have to get these into y equals form. So I'm going to go ahead and minus x on both sides. It's going to leave me 4y. It's going to get me a negative x. And it was a negative 28, so minus 28. I'm going to divide by 4. So I didn't divide by a negative, so don't flip this. Greater than or equal to negative 1/4 x. There's really a 1 up here. Minus 7. So I'm starting at negative 7. And I'm going down 1 over 4. Other direction, up 1 over 4. Up 1 over 4. And that should be a solid line. And now my other one, I'm going to go ahead and do that down here. I'm going to minus the 13x from both sides. That will still have a negative here. So it's negative 4y, which means I am going to have to divide by a negative. So I need to remember to flip my inequality when I get there. So I minus the 13x from this side. It does not combine with the negative 28, right? It stays just a negative 13x, and the minus 28 sits next to it. I'm going to have to divide by negative 4. And so since I divided by a negative, this flips, which is greater than, which changes my shaded region. That's important. These become positive. The two negatives cancel each other out. This becomes positive. That's the whole number 7. So I'm starting at positive 7. And I'm going up 13 over 4, which is going to be way up here off the graph. So now I'm going to work backwards this direction. Down 13, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, and then left 4, because this is supposed to be going up and over this way, 13 and 4. This is also a solid line. And now looking at my blue one, you got to go to your final answer when you're looking at these. So here and here. This says greater than or equal to. Okay, so that's going up from the blue. And this also says greater than or equal to. So looking at my intersection here, all of these y values would be less than. So we need greater than. So we need above the red line, which is this direction, but also includes down here. So it's one of these two. But it also needs to be above my blue section. So it's one of these two sections. So the one that's shared is out here, all of this. Okay, number 12, we've already got this one. Don't have to do any rearranging. So we're going to y equals 5. We're going to draw a solid line across. It says less than, so we're looking underneath. The shaded region will be underneath this. So let's go ahead and fix this. So we're going to minus 3x. That remains a negative 4y, which means we will have to flip. So divide by a negative. And don't forget to flip. Two positives here, or two negatives make a positive, I should say. Two negatives make a positive. And so we are starting at 2, and we're going up 3 and over 4. Down 3 over 4. And looking back to that one, that's a dotted line. Okay, and like we said, this one says y is less than, so that's everything underneath. So it's one of two regions. It's this one or it's this one. Got to look at your final answer here after the flip. It says y is less than, so we're looking underneath. It needs to be underneath both the dotted line and the solid line. So this region is no good, even though it's underneath the solid. That would be above the dotted. So we're looking at everything down here as the solution set. It is less than both lines. Okay, 13, I'm going to minus x, goes to the other side, so 3y, no flip. When the x comes over here, because I minused it on both sides, it's negative. Negative 3 remains negative, so I write it as minus. Divide by 3, that's a positive 3 I'm dividing by, so I am not flipping my sign. It stays less than. This is a negative and a positive, so it stays negative. This is really a 1, so it's negative 1/3 x. This is going to stay a negative. 3 divided by 3 is 1. So I'm at negative 1, and my slope is down 1 over 3. Going the other way, up 1 over 3. Okay, this is a solid line. This one I'm going to minus the 2x. I got to get that y by itself. That negative has to stay, so that's a negative 3y still there. Have not flipped yet. Minus the 2x, so it's negative 2x on this side. Positive 21, I write plus 21. Now I'm dividing by the negative. This is where I flip now. Now it says greater than. Two negatives make a positive 2/3 x. Positive and a negative is a negative, and that is 7. So I'm hitting at negative 7. I'm going up 2 over 3. Up 2 over 3. There's my intersection. Double checking. This is a solid line. When I go to check my shaded regions, I go to my final answers here after some flips if needed. This one says less, so we're going under the blue. It's either this region or this region, depending on if it's greater than the red or less than the red. It says greater than the red, so we have to be above. So below the blue, above the red, shaded region is everything out here. Okay, 14, let's move this x out of here. That will remain a negative 5y. X on the other side, because I subtracted it, is negative. Negative 10, I write as minus 10. Now I'm dividing by a negative 5, which flips this. So now it says less than. Two negatives, though, over here make a positive 1/5 x. Two negatives make a positive 2. So I'm hitting it 2 and going up 1 over 5. Up 1 over 5. So down 1 over 5, down 1 over 5. Looking back, this is a dotted line. Over here, I'm going to minus 7x. That leaves me a negative 5y. No flip, I haven't divided anything yet. So I have negative 7x because of the subtraction. Positive 20 I write as plus 20. So y, now that I've divided by a negative, I flip. These two negatives become a positive 7/5 x. This is a positive and a negative, so negative 4. So I'm hitting at negative 4, and I am going up 7 over 5, which will be right here on my intersection, and to here, and this is a dotted line. Looking at my final answers for my shaded, y is less than for the red, so everything underneath the red. So I have two regions, these two, it's one of these two. Based on the blue, it says greater than the blue, so that would be above. So under the red, above the blue is everything in here. All right, last page. Gotta get these in y equals, so I'm minusing the 5x here, leaving me a positive 7y, excuse me. Since I subtracted, it's a negative 5x on this side. That was a positive 21, I write plus. Divide by 7. No flip, because this is not a negative number I'm dividing by. So this is negative 5/7 x plus 3. So starting at positive 3, I'm going down 5 over 7. Puts me right here. Up 5 over 7. Puts me right here. That should be a solid line. This will also be a solid line. First thing I need to do, though, is get x out of here. This will remain negative, so negative 7y. X is negative because I subtracted it. Positive 21 is plus. Dividing by a negative, so now I have to flip. So now it says less than. Two negatives make a positive 1/7 x. This is going to be a negative. 21 divided by 7 is 3. So I'm starting at negative 3. I'm going up 1 over 7. You can see right there, boom, there's my intersection. Looks like this. Going to my final. It says less than for the red, so it's one of these two sections. And it says less than for the blue. So underneath the blue, so the section that has both of them is everything down here. 16 minus the 3x on both sides, leaving me positive 5y. So no flipping on this one. It's negative 3x now, positive 25. Dividing by a positive 5 doesn't flip anything, so it still says less. Negative 3/5 x, and this is positive 5. So starting at 5, down 3 over 5. This is a dotted line. Now this one I'm going to minus the x, leaving me a negative y still. So negative x on this side, positive 3. Got to divide by negative 1 to make that y into a positive. When that happens, I do need to flip this. So now it says greater than. These two negatives cancel out to make a positive x over 1, which is just x. If you want to put 1 over 1, that's fine. This is going to get me negative 3. I'm going to write it as minus 3. So these are my two. Let me put this one on the graph. Starting at negative 3 and going up 1 over 1 all the way across. This one does have the equal sign, so it's solid. It says greater than for the red, so it's either this region or this region. Less than for blue, so either this region or this region. Our shared is out here. 17. Ooh, an easy first one. Just minus that x. Y is now by itself. Don't need to do anything else, so it's negative x minus 3. So starting at negative 3, down 1 over 1. It's a negative 1 slope. This is going to be a dotted line. Okay. And now on this one, I'm going to minus the 8x. That is going to still leave me a negative y. So I will need to get rid of that, which will flip. when I divide by the negative. So divide by -1. Now it says greater than. Positive 8x, positive 6. So I'm hitting at 6, and I'm going up 8 over 1. That will put me off the graph, so I'm going to go down 8 and slide to the left. There's my intersection. This one is also a dotted line. I'll start with my red. It says greater than. So looking at this, all of these y values are less than. So if I'm to the right or under this one, that is less than. I need greater than. So I'm going either to this region above or to this region above. With my blue, it says greater than, which would be above. So it's one of these two regions. So my shared region is out here. Last one, 18. Get this x out of here. It's going to be a positive 5y. This is a negative x, positive 30. Divide by 5. Dividing by a positive, not flipping anything, still says less. Negative 1/5 x. This is plus 6. So starting at 6 and going down 1 over 5. Oops. Right here. Down 1 over 5. Up 1 over 5. That's a dotted line. Last one, minus 4x. So I still have a negative 5y. Becomes a negative 4x on the other side. Minus 5. Got to divide by that negative 5, which means I am flipping. So y is greater than or equal to. 2 negatives make a positive 4/5 x. 2 negatives make a positive. 5 divided by 5 is 1. So I'm starting at 1 on the y-axis and going up 4 over 5. There's my intersection right there on 5. This one should be a solid line. Okay, looking at the red, final answer says greater than, so it's either this region or this region. For my blue, it says less than, so it's either this region or this one. My shared region is out here.